Hey, welcome back to Evil's Comics. I am Evil Mike, and I got a review for you. This will be a standalone review, and this goes out to my boy Sean from Slim Comics and More. He made a comment that he hadn't heard about it and he missed it, so why not? Let's give him a little review and let him know what it's about. I have read it, and I will say a couple things. This is the nude cover. If you are bothered by nudity, maybe skip ahead 10 seconds. I'm going to show the real cover. The first and the second and the reveal. Alright, there you go on its glory. And there we go. Alright, so this is from Vault Comics. This is the last book you will ever read. It is done by I think it was Colin Bunn and Leah Lees, and colorist by Gidia Mauricio, and lettering by Jim Campbell. And this beautiful cover was done by Corin Howell. So first off, I'd like to say the cover doesn't make any sense. I do like it. Kind of does, it kind of doesn't, but I do like when the cover kind of plays into the story. When I bought Barbaric #1 and reading the comic and realizing that the nude cover and the variant covers kind of played more of a picture into the story, I really dug that. I will say it does kind of, I'll make, it does kind of play a part to a point. But I don't even think the girl on the cover is the main girl, and we really don't see a demon at this point. But we'll get to it, right? So I kind of, we like to compare things first off, and I would like to say it kind of reminds me of like The Ring and Stephen King's novel The Cell, and we'll get to why these kind of feel like that. But the title of the book is The Last Book You Will Ever Read, and this right here plays a major part to the book. I think this does more than this cover does. This book is about, the comic book is about, it's basically about a writer that wrote a book, and people are starting to read. This is the opening scene, and it starts out on a subway. We are following Herb, and Herb, you can see he is here in the blue suit right here where my finger's tapping, but he's basically getting off from work, going home, and there is a speech that's going on about how like society is decaying. When push comes to shove, we often think of the prey and the hunted type thing, but even the prey at the last couple of seconds has that some prey does fight back, type thing. Especially with humans, we don't really qualify as prey or hunted type thing. We're usually just the hunted kind of thing. And basically, we see like a mugging being taking place, maybe like New York City or somewhere with subways. But Herb is being followed home. I mean, he's rushing, trying to get away, and he is stopped by these guys. They pull a knife on him. They're like, "Yo, man, come on, man!" And he's like, "Man, take all my money." And Herb, he's trying to make it home. And these guys they're not for it. They're like, "Man, we're not even robbing you. We're just doing this because of the culling." And they kind of make a comment about how like he's into that too. Like the bad guys are like, "Oh, we're into this for the culling, and you're into this, And it kind of jumps to the next page, and we see that Herb was a little into it more than we believe. That's where the book gets really graphic. But basically Herb kind of killed and ate maybe some, and we don't know. I mean, it's just a whole mess on the ground. After that, Herb's making his way home, all bloodied up, trying to keep covered up. But we run into our main character of the story, and this is Olivia Cade, and that other cover, this is where this takes place, because she has written a book called Satire. And this picture right here is on the cover of the book, which you can see kind of right here. If you go back to the very front, you can see people on the subway are actually reading that book. And you'll see, but it's getting popular. It's a bestseller, right? She's doing a book tour, like a book reading. You know, she's reading passages. They do read passages from this book, and it just sounds like not the funnest of books, not for me at least. It's crazy because, I mean, Colin Bunn, right? I mean, everything he's written so far has been gold, and it's funny, he does like a little excerpt from a book, and it's really, really boring. But basically, it's about how, like, her book is about how, like, you know, like, we're living in a satire, and basically, like, you know, like, through our civilization and, you know, our high society, we're really kind of like, you know, kind of fooling ourselves to our basic primal, you know, needs as far as hunting and eating and the sex part of it. But more alongside the hunter part of it is kind of what they focus on, that we're more feral, and when you get down to it, we're more liable to attack versus, you know, use some intelligent talk or something like that. So we are here at a book signing, and she's done the reading, and she's with her assistant over here, and they're doing a, you know, signing, and people are commenting about what they thought about the books, and an old lady walks up, and she has a copy of the book, and you can see right here, but it's all covered in blood, and the next thing she knows, Olivia's being, you know, toppled over by this woman, and you know, there are police security there. You know, she is kind of getting bigger as far as her celebrity status, so she has security, and they are struggling with this elderly lady, saying, "Man, she's strong," and you know, eventually the lady starts, you know, hopping around like kind of spiderish, and even starts taking chunks out of the cops, because they show her over here, you know, hopping around. I will say, like with Leah Lee's, I really started this book, and I just, you know, her art-wise, I wanted to give it a B. It's not like, I mean, I kind of stress this a lot. There is no such thing as bad art. You know, just because I don't like it doesn't mean that somebody else doesn't love it. But I was really waiting to be blown away. I have seen her art from her other book, and I won't mention that name. But her art was really good in that book. So I was kind of hoping for a story like this, because this story is really good. And kind of in the beginning of the book, her art's not so good. I felt like maybe she did it on purpose, like just giving us a tease or something like that. But I will say around this point in the book, and this is kind of like halfway, her art just gets a lot better, especially like with the woman, and I mean, her art does get a lot better. It's kind of funny how that works. But we kind of jump over. I mean, this elderly lady, she eventually is taken down by a cop. She's shot to death. But we kind of get to this start, and people are starting to talk about the book and events that are going around the world, and basically it looks like, you know, if you read this book, that it goes back to the title. This is the last book you're ever going to read, because once you read it, you basically go to this feral stage. Like, you kind of stop giving fucks, and you start just, I mean, attacking people. And it's not necessarily like we just turn into animals, how they describe it. It's kind of more along the lines of, you know, people are going through their everyday life, and then all of a sudden, like, somebody says something, and depending on how you're feeling at the moment, it's like, you know, and they attack them or something. So we kind of hop back with Olivia after seeing a lot of the real world events, and they're just, you know, she's getting home. She's informed that she has like police security outside her home. Of course, she just got attacked and saw a lady, you know, get put down right in front of her. So she's at home with her assistant, and, you know, she's begging her assistant to have a drink with her and stuff, and she's trying to calm down. She even has like a whole like breakdown stage over here, because the day really did get to her, and she's kind of like, I mean, you know, she wrote this book, and some of this stuff is happening because of her book. Now, the real world stuff, I don't even think she's aware of that yet, you know, because the way the whole book signing thing went down, so I don't think she's been informed of like, you know, all this, like this radio thing and what they were talking about, and some of these other events that are kind of happening in other places in America type thing. But they go to the, you know, that ends the night with her assistant. You know, she has the breakdown, and basically her assistant goes home, and it's the next day, and she's here, and they, you know, her company that publishes her book has assigned her with a more professional security like detail, and this is kind of where the book gets a little strange, and it's kind of like, I think I have a theory about it, but right here you'll see like she's looking in the reflection, and there's basically like a demon staring back at her, and we're not sure if and that's where the cover might tie in that demon might be the demon that's looking back at her, because they show right here it's like eyes at first, and then right here it's her reflection. We see over here on her face that, I mean, her face is the same, so it's not like every other person in this story so far. It's just I mean, their looks stayed the same, but they didn't show any kind of ghoulish or demons or anything like that, besides the people like eating other people. But I mean, we see the same reflection again when this guy walks up. We see like the reflection down here as she's like kind of walking away. But we do meet her new lead for her executive protective team, and his name is Connor Wilson. They kind of have like a little bit like conversation about like, hey, he's kind of like, hey, I've dealt with this. I work with famous people, and she's kind of letting on that it might not be like that. We see a little more of this like the kind of demon like reflecting off of her, and some more bloody goodness. That she's remembering the lady from the night before, but she's basically saying that like that it's the thin line between like love and hate, that sometimes fans can it can go either way and stuff like that. But a lot of it goes into he's trying to like make sense of the situation and also trying to calm her down, and she's also like, it might not be so cut and dry, that lady was kind of crazy type thing. She makes a comment about like, have you read the book? And he was like, nah, I don't read. And she's like, oh, this is perfect because I need somebody that doesn't read. Of course, we kind of know why, being the readers, because if you read the book, you kind of go crazy, because after that it kind of jumps back to Herb, from the beginning of the book, and he is still bloody, and this is him coming from that encounter with the other guys that he kind of nibbled on. Of course, he's not hungry, he already had dinner, but now he's home with his lovely wife, and she's kind of been worried sick. It's taken longer than normal for him to get home, and he explains that he's not so hungry, and she starts noticing the blood and stuff, and the book's trying to explain that we are beast, and we are feral. We try and be intelligent and keep it in control, but I mean, there's signs all over the place that some of us just aren't really that good at keeping it in check. I mean, if you watch the news, you know what I'm talking about, right? But they show Mr. Herb, and he kind of, I mean, he doesn't, I mean, he gets tired of his the naggingness that approached him in the front door, and he just kind of goes to town and has a little more dinner, I guess, and he eats his wonderful wife, and it sucks, but he takes a little herb break, and he sits down on his little nice sofa, and he picks up a book, and sure enough, he picks up satire. That's it for the first issue. The very last page of the book gives us a little spread, and it's a little picture, and it shows a little bit, kind of reveals a little bit, because it kind of shows Olivia and I already forgot his name, Owen, I think it was, but it shows them making out. It shows like some cops, kind of like in maybe a hostage situation type thing. So my thoughts, I kind of think, like the whole demon behind the book thing. I think, the satire, if you know the story about, in Greek mythology and how satires work, kind of like the Pied Piper type thing. That's why I referenced Cell, and I referenced The Ring. The Ring, it kind of reminds me, because once you read this book, you basically, anytime you get angry, it takes you to that feral state, and you attack and nibble on people. The Cell specifically, because the movie and the book work the same way. If you got the cell phone call, it didn't turn you into a zombie. It just kind of like reverted you back to your primal thinking, and if you strip away everything else, that's basically what you get. I mean, for a first read, it was really, really good. I have thoughts about where I think it's going to go, because I think they, in some form or fashion, kind of the opposite of a Muse type of situation. I think she's being used by this demon to spread, this maybe the cover does mean a little more, but we just don't know from the first issue. Maybe I would like to say that I thought this was ironic, and this is Vault Comics, and but I have done a review on this comic, and I've been told that the next issues are on the way, but they do offer a spread here of I Walk with Monsters. I can't wait to read the next issues. Shout out to Reichert Comics, Slim Comics, and more. I will put their comics in the link below. Thanks, Sean, for helping me pick the first book to read out of that stack. Alright guys, this is the last video I'm going to do today because I'm going to bed. See y'all later. Hope you picked up some great comic books. Go love a comic book person. Find a comic book friend. We're the best type of people you just don't know about. Evil out. Ooh, yeah.